Did you know that the Great Books of the Western World, published by Britannica, offered annual supplements from 1961 to 1998? These books were called The Great Ideas Today, and I want to introduce them to you in this episode. Hi everyone, I'm Jim. Welcome to Great Books, Big Ideas. We're going to talk about the Great Ideas Today. These were a set of supplementary volumes that were add-ons to the Great Books of the Western World sets that thousands of people bought in America beginning in 1952, and the second edition was published in 1990. But these are back here behind me. I spent several years collecting a full run of these. They ran from 1961 to 1998. And I want to do just a quick introduction to talk about the purpose of these volumes and why I think they might be worth adding to your collection. Let's take a peek at what the vision for this Great Ideas series was all about. I'm looking at 1961, the first volume, and let's quote a little bit from the foreword. This book is the first in a series of volumes designed to supplement Great Books of the Western World. To be published annually, The Great Ideas Today seeks to focus the wisdom of the great books and the light of the great ideas on the problems of the day. Its aim is to illuminate, not merely to report, the year's events and developments. As its title indicates, The Great Ideas Today brings the perennial into contact with the current in order to reveal the timeless and abiding elements which are always present in the contemporary and the transient. So you can see it's an attempt to put the great books in context to see where the discourse is at, contemporaneous to the years in which these were published. And there is a certain methodology that they began with. I don't think they kept this consistently through every single volume in the series as the years went by. So in part one, they would offer kind of a focus on a debate or an issue that was active at the present time. And in this case, in Volume 1, 1961, they were talking about democracy and as whether it's the best form of government. So sometimes these would be, part one would be presented as like debates or symposiums. And then they would have a section down here. In this edition, it's in part 3, the year's developments in the arts and sciences. So they would go through and they would basically have articles about different areas like literature, physics and technology, social sciences and laws, biological sciences and medicine, philosophy and religion, and so forth. And the subjects varied from year to year. Let's just take a look at another one. These also sometimes came with dust jackets. Very few of my copies have the dust jackets preserved. This is the 1965 volume. And here you can see part 1 is sort of taking up the theme of work, wealth, and leisure. Part 2, contemporary aspects of a great idea. This one's about death. And then part 3, here's those annual updates on what's been going on in the arts and sciences, literature, philosophy and religion, social sciences, biological sciences, physical sciences, and technology, right? So this was the original template for it. And then part 4 would be additions to the Great Books Library. So these actually you can think of as new entries that didn't make it to the first 52 volumes, more contemporary editions, but they actually are spanning all through history, like older and newer. And you can see how they've added some here. Some of these additions to the Great Books Library wound up in the second edition of the Great Books of the Western World. So, for example, Relativity, the Special and General Theory by Albert Einstein, that shows up in the second edition. But here you got it all the way back in 1961 if you subscribe to these annual supplements. And then similarly, just a quick look at 1965. They have an abridged Utopia by St. Thomas More, selections from Walden, and then The Challenge of Democracy by John Strachey. So additions to the Great Books Library. So that's just a sneak peek at the great ideas today. I hope you can understand the usefulness of these volumes. These are great time capsules. I have read all the 60s volumes from 1961 to 1969 over the past, I'd say, 5 to 7 years. I've read those. I try to read about 1 or 2 per year. And now I'm currently reading the 1970, and I'm working my way up through the years. They ran from 61 to 1998. But they're wonderful time capsules. I love going back and reading these and seeing what they were talking about back in the day, how they were talking about it, who were like the big wigs that they had writing for them. They got some of the most prominent intellectuals of the time contributing to these, and they're from all sides of the political spectrum and from all these different disciplines, whether it's sciences or the arts or history, philosophy, religion. And really some fascinating articles in there. Sometimes the writing is a little dry, but yeah, I still find it interesting. They have bibliographies in them, so if you want to do deep dives and you want to explore some of the developments in the arts and sciences, and it just gives you so many leads to pursue if you're researching or you just want to expand your reading reach. And then those additions to the Great Books Library are wonderful. They tend to focus on shorter works, and they add a lot more diversity and so forth. So I just think these are indispensable. So if you really love the Great Books of the Western World set, I highly recommend you hunt for these. Now, how do you find these great ideas today? How did I find them? Primarily, I got these through eBay and Amazon, sellers. Those were the main sources. Maybe ABE books, but what I would look for are people selling them in lots. Sometimes they'll sell them in lots of 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. And you can get a bunch of them at a time. Sometimes you can buy individual volumes, and they are relatively easy to obtain, I think. I didn't have a whole lot of trouble getting like 90% of them, and they didn't cost a whole bunch. Like if you're patient and you're willing to shop around, you can find them. Now, there were a few volumes that were tricky, like that, especially from the 1990s. Like the later you go, I found them harder to obtain. Like the last year, the 1998 volume, I probably paid a little bit more for that, and it took a while for it to pop up. But I did find it eventually. And you can find them with the dust jackets. Most of the time they won't come with the dust jackets. But if that's important to you, just be patient and see if they turn up. Sometimes you'll see them at library sales. Sometimes you'll see them in used bookstores. But I don't come across them that often in those types of sales. It's mainly through mail order, through eBay, online shopping, where I've found them. But I was happy to get a whole set of them, piece by piece, piecemeal, and I look forward to reading the additions to the Great Books Library from there. So they're just terrific. So here's my plan for covering these in some more depth. I want to start a series. I'll start making a playlist with this. This will be the first video in the playlist. I want to do some book tours. I want to take you through year by year and show you what's in these volumes, make some comments on them. If I've read them already, I'll talk about what I like the best about them, at least. But mainly it's just a sort of summary coverage, like here's what you can find in these. And to further whet your appetite and get you interested and intrigued by what you might find in these volumes. And it could take a while. I don't know how often I'll do these, but it should be fun to take you through these one by one. And if you have these already, or if you have interest in them, why don't you leave a comment? Tell us a little bit about your thoughts. Do you think these are worthwhile to get? One question I have is, and I haven't researched this at all, but maybe some of you who have had them for a long time, or you had family members who had them, I wonder what they cost. Like I'm pretty confident that this started as sort of an upsell thing where you bought a set of the great books, and then the encyclopedia salesman probably got you to sign on for some kind of subscription plan. I just wonder how much these cost year by year, and how that price changed over the years. If anybody knows, I'd love to know that. Like, leave a comment. But just if you have general reactions, general comments, if you have favorite volumes in the series, and any additions or corrections you have to what I've said, please enlighten us with your knowledge. Anyway, that's a quick intro to the great ideas today. Wonderful series. I think it's also telling if you look at the span of years, 1961 to 1998. And remember, the second edition of the Great Books of the Western World came out in 1990, and they sold, I don't think, terribly well through the 90s, but they're out there, you can buy them. But what happened in the late 90s? A lot of changes in the culture, a lot of changes in the publishing world. The internet becomes big, and you can see the end of the line is 1998. I wonder why. I wonder why they stopped publishing them in 1998. Probably sales numbers weren't good by that point, and they just kind of petered out. But that tells you a lot about the state of the culture and the publishing world, that you have this heyday from the early 60s to the late 90s. And then things started to change. So if you have thoughts about that, let us know as well. I haven't fully processed my own thinking about it, but I just wanted to make an observation about that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this intro. Leave a comment, and if you're new to the channel, I hope you subscribe, hit the notification bell so we can build support. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.